So thank you all for being here. This is being recorded. This is our Sarasota University Colloquium. And I'm so happy to see folks here this evening to hear our amazing guest speaker. But before we turn our attention to our guest speaker, Dana Anderson, I see that we do have our university president here with us this evening, Dr. Michael Levins. Dr. Levins, would you like to say anything to our group this evening?
Oh, I absolutely would. Thank you. Thank you, Lindsay. And I'm just so grateful that all of you can join us tonight. The Colloquium is such an important part of our programming. And I know many of you are familiar with Sarasota University, but this for those that are, welcome back and appreciate your engagement. And those that aren't, you'll learn about the kinds of things that we value and love to feature here. And we have just, tremendous people taking part in the Colloquium. So again, so pleased that you're all here and welcome, and I look forward to listening and learning.
Thank you, Dr. Levins. I'd like to also remind everyone tonight that at Sarasota University, we have launched our bachelor's completion program. So if you or someone you know has a desire to complete their bachelor's degree in Montessori education, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll drop my email in the chat. And just as a reminder, we do offer master's degrees in Montessori leadership and Montessori education as well. And if you have already earned a Montessori credential at a MACD accredited institution, those hours may be considered toward as credit toward your master's degrees, regardless of the path that you consider. We have consideration for credit toward your degree in both the Masters of Montessori Education and the Masters of Montessori Leadership. So again, welcome. And I'm so delighted to introduce Dana Anderson. I met Dana at the AMS Labposium in January. And I was so impressed with the information that she shared and her message. And I wanted to be sure that this information got out to our SU community because it is so timely. And Dana is an expert in this field. So Dana is a Montessori educator, a kid's digital content expert, writer, and mom of 3. She is Montessori primary and lower elementary certified and is currently in secondary training. For more than 15 years through her work with tech companies, schools, and nonprofits, Dana has worked to provide high quality digital content for children and adolescents, as well as amplify youth voices on issues that affect their lives online and offline, especially as it relates to education and inclusion. Welcome, Dana, and thank you for being here with us this evening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pollack, and thank you, Dr. Levins, for both inviting me. I'm going to share my screen, and this presentation that I will be sharing, let's see here, okay. Can everybody see here? I'm just going to start presentation mode. Okay, can you see the presentation okay? Awesome.
Yes, okay. It looks great.
So this presentation was made in about an hour using an AI tool. And just to try to illustrate and put my money where my mouth is, I decided I was going to try to use an AI tool that I have never used before to see how effective this promise of saving us time and still presenting us with high quality tools to use really meets my need today. So I did that, and generally pretty happy with the results. So my title for the topic today is AI and Montessori education, what we need to think about. I intentionally chose what we need to think about and not what we need to know, because at this point, not many people know much of anything, and we all need to be thinking about it. If I promised you that I was going to tell you what you would need to know, I would hope that you would turn your ears off immediately and fire me from this position, because I should not be telling you that. So I also decided to select this image of this beautiful child who is playing with bubbles, because bubbles are one of those things that just creates this awe and wonder in us, but they are also very ethereal. They're very difficult to capture. You touch it and they pop. And similarly, this is something that we all have to understand as we look at the attractive nature of AI and all these amazing tools that are at our disposal now, and that kids, especially adolescents, but even younger kids, are going to want to use. They will tend to be so complex and ungraspable at the nature of the complexity of them, and both the promise and the potential dangers that and the sense of awe that they can elicit in children, adolescents, and ourselves, that we really do need to handle this issue very carefully. Okay, and I would also like to stress at the very beginning of this conversation, please interrupt me at any time with questions. Dr. Pollack, I hope that you will interrupt if you see anything in the chat that somebody would else. I really prefer conversations over lectures, so please feel free to jump in. All right, so the next slide, my daughter, this is Elena's story. I was telling Dr. Pollack as we were waiting for you all to come in, that my daughter, Elena, just left for Germany yesterday morning. She graduated from college and is off to Germany for a long period of time. And so we had these kind of very deep conversations that one has with a loved one right before they take off. And one of the conversations that we had was about technology over this past weekend. And I thought the complexity of our journey into balancing our human lives, especially those of the children and adolescents that we serve as Montessorians, during this advent of generative AI and beyond, can really be illustrated through the story of the conversation I had with Elena. So we'll start there. Elena was a kid who really was not all that into screens. Of course, this was a while before. Kids did not have their own phones when she was little, but there was definitely still computer games. There were iPads when she was little, but she really liked hands-on. This is her with a Lego display at age 7 or 6. I think maybe she was 6. That she had created and asked the library if she could display her Lego creations because she was so hands-on and just absolutely was so proud of her Legos. So she mentioned to me, Mom, I don't know that I really want my kids to have a lot of technology when they're young, because look would I have done all these Lego creations. And I said, yes, I completely understand what you're talking about with the balance. I will tell you that there's an amazing Lego app now that uses AI and can take a picture of the Legos that are on a parent's floor that they're stepping on, all those little Lego pieces, and then make examples of various things that a kid could take the pictures of and then create themselves with the 3-dimensional Legos that the parents are stepping on. So there are some really fascinating things to help kids take creativity, match it to the 3-dimensional reality, and still keep that engagement, and help parents pick up those individual Legos. So, there is this balance, and there is change that's even happened from this digital native generation that we've seen in Elena's generation. Change is happening so quickly that even she will have a different set of questions, decision points, all those kind of things as she's balancing tech for her kids. The other picture there is of her doing a presentation about a study that she did about maternal and infant health, and the amount of data that she was able to crunch while she was doing this study was really amazing. And so we talked about the fact that, yes, she understands that a lot of these tech tools are going to be able to help us with healthcare and education and all of these issues that we have had so much trouble balancing large scale data with real results. And she was able to reflect on the fact how much technology and AI have helped her just in her recent graduate study. And then finally, she and I talked about how important it is to keep kids connected to nature, and how she's a huge nature lover. And if you look very closely at this picture of her with this goat, you will notice that not only is she holding a goat, but she has a cell phone and an Apple Watch on. And so as I mentioned to her as we discussed this issue, again, the complexity will be with this generation of parents coming up and us educating their children of these 20s and 30-somethings. It will look a little different. And we do need to understand that we have to follow the child into their world, and their world is of their parents showing them goats with cell phones in their hands and Apple Watches on. How do we balance all of this, and how does AI fit into that? So that's a little personal story to start with there. Just to go over the basics, because again, I am no expert on all the different types of AI. I think we would have to have an MIT professor, and even they would, I think, struggle to give you all the definitions of the various types of AI. However, right now there are 4 general types. One is reactive machines. Those are the types of things that we have been using for a very long time. They're designed to react to specific inputs, things like spell check, the old versions of Grammarly before Grammarly implemented AI. We're all used to those kind of reactive machines at this point. Now, today's crop of Gen AI tools are called limited memory. They can do really impressive things and do image generation, text consolidation, act as, assistants to give us all the kinds of information that we want at very rapid speed. But they do require past human inputs. They are drawing on all the things that we've put into them over decades and decades of tech use and inputting our own data and all of the research and all of the news, et cetera, that AI is training on right now and is giving that information to us. That's limited memory. Next up, and even newer, are these AI tools that are called theory of mind. This is social intelligence AI that can interpret and understand human emotions, motivations, and intentions. When you hear discussion about the way that these kind of tools will be used in, say, healthcare, will be used in schools, in other ways to kind of bridge that gap even more between the human experience and the tech experience, this is what they're talking about. The example that is given here is MIT's Mock, which uses facial and voice recognition to analyze a person's emotional state. I believe that there are these kind of things being tested in Japan with elder care, for example. There's not enough people in Japan to take care of their elderly population, and so they're using robotics that can actually respond to people's emotional states and do some kind of human-like relational interaction with elderly people there. There's a lot of opinions about that, but that's just what's happening. Okay, and then the final one is self-aware AI. That would be the most advanced form of AI that is known today. It has the ability to understand its own state of being and make decisions based on that understanding. Some people would call this sentient. Again, that's not fully developed, and it's very much debatable as far as exactly what that is or where it's going. But our big question here is, what would Montessori do about all of this? And one of the things I wanted to point out about this slide in particular, this beautiful sculpture by Matteo Ferroni, a lot of images that are coming up in AI results for, say, text to image, which is what I used here, do not cite sources. And one of the things I try to teach my adolescents right now in fair use in their digital citizenship lessons, I teach digital citizenship to my adolescents right now. It is so important to give people credit where credit is due. Just because an image pops up on your screen without any kind of creator, we're really going to have a chilling effect in humans, I believe, and others believe, if we do not make sure that humans are still encouraged to be creative by citing them, giving credit, finding ways to financially compensate, all of these things. And so definitely wanted to give, and I had to search for it, give credit to Matteo Ferroni for this beautiful sculpture of Maria Montessori here. So what would Montessori do in this instance? Well, we have a lot to draw from. I wrote an article for the AMS publication, Montessori Life, about some of this topic. And so I did a lot of research into her original writings, and her genius remains relevant today. It was made for pivotal times such as World War II and times like this. And not comparing this to a war at all, but just saying pivotal moments in society, like major transformations in technology or global movements of people for various reasons, such as climate or war or whatever. We can look to Montessori, and she has the answers of how to educate the child to meet the challenges of the day. So on Tech and the Child, the quote that I would like to highlight here is from her, is man finds himself no longer limited to his hands for the accomplishment of his desires, for he has machines. Supernature is now his desire, for he has machines. Supernature is now his background of potentiality. A wider, loftier life is his more than ever before, and children have to be prepared for it. So the fundamental principle in education is correlation of all subjects and their centralization in the cosmic plan. So just highlighting that word, all subjects, which would include anything relevant to their lives, which would include technology. On nature and the child, she says, the child must always be given work to do with his hands as he works with his mind, for the child's personality has a functional unit. Our principle as Montessorians of functional unity has enabled us to fulfill an extremely important task of education, offering the child the possibility of coming into direct contact with reality. One of my good friends, Kate Broughton, likes to say that we Montessorians are the keepers of three-dimensional reality for children. So as they go into this world of technology, we are the keepers of their three-dimensional reality. We help them make those connections of hands-on. I was eavesdropping as I was working in a Starbucks a couple of weeks ago, and there was a little kid with an iPad and another little kid with an iPad and two moms chit-chatting over coffee. And the one little kid hands the iPad to his mom and says, I want to go play in my body now, Mom. And so even kids know when they're playing in their minds or when they're using their full bodies. He wanted to go play in his body. And so we need to help give them these rich opportunities where they can make those distinctions and they can be in that contact with nature. And then on peace and the child, she says, the forces that create the world are precisely the forces that must create peace. And one of those forces that's creating the world right now is technology. We are convinced that the child can do a great deal for us, more than we can do for him. And she goes on in this quote to say, adults are rigid. Inflexible, I think she calls us rigid or inflexible. She says the child is the one who really can adapt and show us how to adapt in the healthiest ways. So with her words, I think we have a lot of hope and a lot of inspiration from which to draw on this topic of AI. All right, so just to make this practical too, because I don't want to be all like pie in the sky, some pragmatic resources that I linked to each one of these 5 resources. So you can definitely have this presentation. I can give it to Dr. Pollack and she can email it or whatever. But Dr. Nita Farahani is a professor at Duke University. She has written the book, The Battle for Your Brain, and she writes about the need for a new human right of cognitive liberty and touches on many subjects related to neurotechnology and AI and how they are affecting and how they are going to affect education. One story she tells in her book is how some schools in different countries have figured out a way to essentially use neurotechnology to decide whether or not a student is paying attention to the teacher. And she makes a point of the fact that sometimes mind wandering is a very important development or an important state for the brains of children to be in mind wandering. It helps them make connections. It helps them be creative, synthesize, take a break if there's too much information coming at them. And so some of these neurotechnology AI advances like tutors, personalized tutors for various that they can tailor the student experience to a certain student's need or leveled reading, all those kind of things. Those are great. Some other things we need to be on guard for, whether or not as Montessorians, those are things that what we think about those and what we're going to do about those. The second resource, I was a co-facilitator of an AMS Tech Talk with teens speaking on AI. These 6 teens on this panel, Dr. Pollack was there, I believe, so she can back me up on this. They were the best speakers on AI. You should have just had them on and just left me in the audience, Dr. Pollack, as you know, because they were just incredible. So that Vimeo is linked there in resource number 2. So feel free to watch that and just really enjoy the wisdom and the hope and the fears and all of the things of AI with these teens and how they would like us as educators to handle it as well. The third resource there for you is the Common Sense Media AI Literacy Lessons curriculum. They have built this for grades 6 through 12, and it's based on the similar format to their amazing digital citizenship curriculum, and it's all free. I worked for Common Sense Media for a very long time. I no longer work for them, so I just promote them because I believe so strongly in their mission and product. I get no kickbacks, but it's just a really amazing resource. Not even if you don't feel like you can introduce it to your students, for yourself, if you want to know more about AI literacy. The fourth resource here is AI EDU. It's an excellent site and organization that you can go to resource yourself with up-to-date information. They have a great newsletter that comes out. They have webinars. They do really good work. And finally, on the equity piece, because there are real issues, as I'm sure you've heard about with some of the image generation and other things, with equity and AI. And so there are some really great organizations, including One AI for Equity. The World Economic Forum has an accelerating digital inclusion website with tons of information that's really fascinating. So many other orgs, once you cycle into those, they'll help you cycle into others that can help you if your interest is on specifically on equity and AI. So all that said, what does this mean for educators and our students? What should we do where the rubber really meets the road in the classroom interacting with students? I believe we must do what Survivor does and outwit, outplay, and outlast. Not our students, but AI. This is after looking at lots of different research and people's opinions and my own experiences in the classroom. This is the best illustration that I can offer anybody when it comes to how to manage AI and students, because as we know, students are using this, especially adolescent students. They are using it to write papers. They are using it to solve math problems. They are using it because it works and it's easy and it's good a lot of times. Not always, but a lot of times it is. So we could take the approach of outwit, outplaying, and outlasting our students, but as Montessorians, we know that that's not the way to go. And we can really raise the bar and figure out new and better ways to do this in collaboration with our students, outwitting, outlasting, and outplaying AI to make sure that humans are seen for the value that we add and aren't just kicked to the curb. So choosing collaboration and creativity over restriction and punitivity. And I don't even think that's a word, but that is how against I am being punitive about AI with students, because I don't see how that's ever going to work. There are these tools that people put out to try to catch AI use, and then the AI learns faster than those tools can keep up. And so it's going to be, like chasing our tails, and it's not going to create that collaborative relationship where we're giving students rationale and we're listening to what they need and we're working with them in partnership to figure out best use cases for AI and when AI would not be appropriate to use. So here are some ideas. I'm sure you can add a ton, and I would love for everybody to add a ton, because again, this has to be collaborative. We all need to be thinking about this. And so please feel free to jump in and add ideas if you've done things already, or if you have ideas just off the top of your head as you look at these. So first, I believe we need to be brilliant at our basics, emphasize the tools and philosophies that we already have as Montessorians that are better than anything an AI tool can offer. We have so many. The cosmic curriculum is the first thing that comes to mind. Valorization, again, being the keepers of three-dimensional reality, Socratic seminar, working with peace education, working with conflict resolution, with silence. I'm just jumping back and forth between like primary and elementary and adolescent, because at every level we have basics that are absolutely brilliant. So the more we can become even more brilliant at those, the more we are going to be relevant to our students in ways that AI cannot. Then we need to know the legal, ethical, and safety constraints of AI use, because we have to keep our students safe and we have to follow the legal guidelines. We have to know what we're using, what we're allowing them to use, when we need parent permission for that. Age restrictions, what's our administration's policies, what's our state policies. There's not just thousands, but tens of thousands of bills coming down the pike right now in Congress and state legislatures dealing with AI, social media, other tech use, all related to kids and teens and adults. So it is very important to know the legal, ethical, and safety constraints. And that's why I would go back to the slides that we were just on for some of those resource organizations that are really going to help you do that in ways that there's no way that we could do here tonight in a short presentation. I believe as Montessorians, we need to move away from the gold stars and the don't or else's. All of those kind of extrinsic motivators or extrinsic punishments are going to become even less relevant than they already were. We know that as Montessorians already, but now I think other people are going to catch up to where we've been on those kind of things, and things like negotiated grades, which I'm just learning about from my amazing principal, Ms. Tamala. All of these kind of different ways of going about assessments that don't involve gold stars, grades, or else's. Let's get together and figure those out. put relationship first. What do students want and need? What do your students want and need? What are they trying to tell you? One of my students who has reading challenges found an amazing AI tool that his parent, this was not something I gave permission, he would already had parent permission. So not just was he able to read a book by Audible that we were reading in class, which is completely fine, that he read that material and was able to discuss it and learn and do all the kind of things he needed to do in high school literature. But to do it in a fun way, he found an AI tool that allowed him to read it in the voice of some of his favorite actors and YouTubers. So, imagine Shakespeare being read by Mr. Beast. These kind of things can happen in the world of AI. So, just open. What do they need? What are they saying that they want to do? I had another instance where students were having trouble pulling out thematic elements from Othello. I could clearly see on the screen that one of my students was typing something in to find a literary theme for Othello. So why don't we just all say, okay, how about I'll use AI if you're keeping it within teacher control. I'll type out some themes, then you tell me how those themes can relate to your life, any of your life experiences. Let's humanize it. Let's bring it into their real world experience in their own lives. When we were doing Shakespeare, had a lesson on iambic pentameter and the sonnets around Valentine's Day. What would it look like if you wrote a poem, something about the way you feel about love, and let's put it into an AI tool and see what it does with iambic pentameter. Let's see if it keeps the essence of what you wanted it to say or if it changes the real meaning of your love poem. There's so many creative ways that we can go about using these tools. Again, pointing back to legal, ethical use, parent permissions, administration permissions, all those kind of things. But also just trying to really find ways to meet them where they are, hear their ideas, hear what tools they're already using, and see if we can get creative and find fun ways to incorporate them. Kindle awe and wonder in everything. Everything. Awe and wonder. Maria Montessori Montessorians have with our cosmic curriculum. We just have it. And so let's continue to kindle that through nature, through our materials, and through tech when it's appropriate, because some of tech is really awesome. It really does evoke awe to see what some of the things that can be done. Prioritize nature and natural connections to humans and the earth. Always that connection. Prioritizing connection and to themselves, human connection to yourself. Embrace tech, especially in the interactive, creative, collaborative, and ease of tools, features, and opportunities, like we just talked about. What are good use cases? This is an important one. Rest and digest. Both the body and the mind today, when we have so much information coming at us and things are happening so quickly, both for yourself and your students, make sure that there's balance. If you have tech in your school, is there time that's tech free? If you're inside in your school, is there time for outdoors? Do people have rest periods in the day, both yourself and your students? I just had two of my students tell me that they had lobbied their student or their teacher a couple of years ago to have naps at their school. They did not get naps integrated in their school day, but they wanted it. And I kind of see a point for it at adolescent naps. We do naps in primary, so we all need to rest and digest and keep the main goals in sight. For Montessori, it's whole child development and world peace, right? Those are our two main goals. Quote from Maria, the children of today will make all the discoveries of tomorrow. All the discoveries of mankind will be known to them, and they will improve what has been done and make fresh discoveries. They must make all the improvements in houses, cities, communications, which is tech, and methods of production that are to be made. The future generation must not only know how to do what we can teach them, they must also go a step further. And look, I see that AI did not catch my typo here. So see, this is why I should have gone back with my own eyes and read this, because this tool promised me that it was going to catch all my typos, and it did not. So there we go. All right. So I want to give you 4 challenges. If you have never tried an AI tool like ChatGPT or something like that, just try it. Pi is my personal favorite. It's personal, and I like Pi. And you can choose the voices, and you can also it definitely has like a human kind of conversational tone to it. Talk to your students about their feelings about and ideas for AI use. Just see where they're at. It doesn't mean you have to do anything in class with it at all. Just talk to them about it, especially adolescents. Encourage your school to craft an AI policy as a community. Use this as a community building activity, not just as a dictate. And make sure you include the kids, the teens, they can be included in these kind of policy craftings. Their voices should be heard. We always want to center the children in Montessori, and they have great ideas. Read at least one page of Maria Montessori's original works every day. This is something that I recommend in any speech that I give on Montessori, not just AI policy or AI. I take the time to just read even a couple of paragraphs. Her original writings are brilliant, and they really do keep us motivated when there's all this muddy middle clutter coming at us. So I really encourage you to do that. So finally, this is Elena again from the beginning, and this is her on Monday, shipping off to Germany. And I thought these 4 photos of her illustrate kind of what I hope that where we're going with AI. Go out into the world of AI and technology and see what we see what we find, but be thoughtful. This picture of Elena in the black, she's a very thoughtful person, and kind of looking at her in that picture, that's when she gets that pensive look. We need to go out in the world, but we also need to be thoughtful. Stay connected to nature. She's doing this WOOFing program, Worldwide Organic Farming, that you can, volunteer on farms. Find ways to grow things with your students, and stay connected to nature as we connect to technology. And finally, just jump in sometimes. She skydove in New Zealand. I would never personally do that, but I will find other ways to jump into life that don't involve skydiving and AI. And finally, one of my favorite quotes from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, or however you pronounce his last name, AI did for me, and I've already forgotten how to pronounce it. If you want to build a ship, don't teach people to collect wood, and don't assign them tasks and work, but rather teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea. And as educators, I believe this is our sweet spot. This is our secret sauce. AI is going to be able to teach them how to build ships, teach them how to collect wood, assign tasks, all that stuff. We are the ones who can still teach children and adolescents and ourselves to long for the endless immensity of the sea and all the other amazing things in the world with human connection, nature connection, and beyond. That's what we can do. So thank you so much for listening, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts.
Oh, Dana, you've given us so much food for thought, and I love the homework. Thank you. Thank you for all of your insights. I do have a question for you. I'd love to hear what your 2 things. What's been your biggest struggle using or encountering AI with your students? And what do you feel has been your biggest win incorporating AI in your Montessori environment?
Good questions. Well, I would think the biggest struggle has been getting the students to trust that I'm not out to get them in trouble. Really and truly,
Right.
like, let's talk about it. Let's see where is appropriate use. Why do you want to use it now? Why do you think you maybe shouldn't use it then? Because once we can have those conversations, and actually, if you watch that video of the Tech Talk, the one student who mentions is my student who mentions using it in class.
Yes.
Just finding ways to authentically incorporate it into class is not as hard as getting students to trust you first, that, hey, we can work this out. Let's just not default to hiding it from your teachers. Let's find ways to use it when the use case is good, and you can figure out, and we can figure out together, authentic reasons, rationale. Here we go back to Montessori talk, right?
Right.
The real rationale for why you don't want to use it sometimes. And I would say the biggest win probably, well, I am going to bring up that the point again about the student who is using AI for reading, and also another program that we use for reading at school for the middle schoolers, also incorporating AI that can help kids who are either readers who need a little extra support, or who, for whatever reason, for comprehension, other things, finding ways to use AI to make reading more fun for them, and also to assess them in ways that are at least a little closer to authentic assessment, has been a real win for me.
I think so often we think of AI as being a tool for reading language arts, if you will. Have you seen an application of AI in other subject areas more broadly? I'm thinking of maybe the use in a math environment, for example. Have you seen any successes there or have experience where you've seen that AI being useful?
I think this math in particular is a real sticky subject, and that is one of the ones that, because it is so good and motivating kids to find reasons to want to engage in math and use their brains in ways that are really challenging when they know that they can just plug in those numbers or that equation or that that is really,
Right.
really hard.
Yeah.
But I do believe that that is why, if you look at some of like Conmigo's the Khan Academy's AI tool, and you look at some of the videos that Sal Khan has done on, I believe it's why AI will save education might be the title of Sal Khan's really famous one. But if you look at his approach to how AI could actually free up students to do more relevant work in math that helps them make those cross-curricular connections that we as Montessorians love anyway. Again, just, tapping into other ways to think about math, and perhaps not always, but sometimes allowing AI to work in math. But again, I'm not a math instructor, so I don't know all the ins and outs of that. And I would definitely defer to all my math colleagues as far as I think that is really going to be one that's going to be challenging, but I think there's hope there.
Thank you, Dana. I'd also love to hear from our group here this evening. Would anyone care to share maybe a success story that you've had using AI in your classroom or on your campus? And if you have an AI tool that's a favorite, could you type that into the chat for us so that we could share those resources tonight? Just jump in if anyone would like to share a success story or a strategy that you're using with AI. Love to hear from you.
I'd also really love to know, Dr. Pollack, how many schools the people work at have AI policies?
Oh, yes. If you have an AI policy, if you could type in the name of your school, if you feel comfortable, we'd love to learn from you. If you have an AI policy currently, if you'd be willing to share the name of your school. Michael is sharing Conmigo as a tool. I'm assuming, Michael, you're using that, Conmigo? And you like it. It's been working. All right. Awesome. Kara shares Springmont. We do not have one, but I love the idea of creating with teachers. Awesome. Anyone care to share a story or a strategy that you've used that's been successful with using AI? Cheryl shares that when the adolescent program opens in August, they plan to create one.
That's awesome. And hopefully the adolescents will be able to participate in creating that. That would be just fantastic experience for them. And they'll have buy-in right at the beginning, if as opposed to it being imposed. Again, another great Montessori word, are we imposing or are we including? So that's fantastic.
Right. Michael is working to finalize a policy at Community Montessori in New Albany, Indiana. Fantastic. Dana, how have your conversations with parents gone? Are they pretty supportive? Do they feel like this is a tool their students should be able to use in an unrestricted way? Do you find that parents have no clue what's going on?
I think parents are really all over the board too, similar to all the various schools. I mean, it's really, we're all coming at this from such different starting places and interest level. And I think that is why this idea of an AI policy for schools, so everybody can get on the same page, is so crucial, because parents don't want to feel like they're allowing their kids to quote unquote cheat, or
Right.
or maybe the parents who are struggling at home with some of the homework. People who have been out of school for a very long time and their kids ask them for help. I do know parents who have used AI successfully to help their child with their homework. So it's a really complicated topic, but I think that as long as we're all transparent, nobody feels like they're going to get in trouble for various things. We know the rules we're all working under, the ground rules. There we go again. Our Montessori ground rules. The whole world just needs to shift to Montessori and it'll all be fine.
Right. Does anyone else have questions for Dana this evening? Something that's burning on your mind that you'd like to have Dana answer for us this evening?
I think I do. I would ask, hi Dana, how do you handle, or how do you help the students deal with the mixed messages that they're getting around what AI is, how they can use it when they're with you, and then when they're not with you? I suspect there's a lot to that. There's a lot going on there. Just curious on how you've dealt with that.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I would point back to Common Sense Media's digital citizenship curriculum and now their AI literacy curriculum as well, because if you have ongoing conversations with your students about everything related to their digital lives, they know that you are hearing and seeing the same things that they are. This isn't a hidden world anymore where adults don't really understand. The Common Sense Media curriculum does a wonderful job of almost always having a teen voice video along with the curriculum, so that you're hearing from other teen voices. And it's everything from cyberbullying to fair use to sexting to all these various things. So you're having these conversations with your students in a very organized, well-produced way that's information that is used across 70% of US schools now. So we're having this shared language and shared conversation. And so I was so happy when they came out with the AI curriculum as well, because I think once we start to have those conversations, then they can say, I can have an open dialogue with my teacher. And again, we're not in this adversarial relationship. We're in a collaborative relationship where we are all trying to figure this out together. I'm not just going to get in trouble about even suggesting that I want to use this, so that I did use it, things like that.
Thank you.
Well, I'd just like to thank everyone again this evening for being here and participating. We will be sending a follow-up email with Dana's resources and homework. So we'll be sure to be engaging in those pieces of homework that you've assigned to us, Dana. I'm excited about that. I really am wanting to try some of those new tools that you've introduced to us tonight. Next month, our Sarasota Colloquium guest speaker will be Suzanne Newell. Her education career it spans over 25 years, including private and public sector experience as a teacher, campus leader, curriculum specialist, executive director, professional development, consultant, coach, and adjunct professor. While she's spent most of her career serving in public schools, her current role as chief education strategist for a major technology company offers her to support a wide array of educational contexts. In addition to working as a strategist, she recently co-founded the Connect Ed learning community and is using this platform to give back to the field that has helped shape the leader she's become. And so she will be using Dana's presentation tonight to springboard into her presentation to take this conversation around AI another step. So I hope to see everyone here again next month, pardon me. Dana, I just want to thank you again for all of your insights and valuable tools that you've given us. and really look forward to practicing those skills in the future. And we will be using those with our Sarasota University students and sharing that information as well. Again, just quick reminder, if you know anyone interested in a bachelor's completion program or continuing their education with a master's in Montessori leadership or Montessori education, please feel free to reach out to me. That my email is in the chat, or look us up at sarasotauniversity.edu on the World Wide Web. Thanks again for being here, everyone. This event has been recorded and you can find it on our YouTube channel along with all of our previous colloquia recordings. Thanks you all for being here. Take care.
Thank you.